So thank you so much for being here today and giving this great opportunity to share your wisdom with all these people who are considering having a profound experience through this amazing work that you do. So do you want to talk a little bit about the work you do? And
Sure, yeah, I'm really excited about what's going to come through today. I'm really grateful for being asked to talk about this work, and we've obviously had a couple of sessions ourselves that have been absolutely beautiful, like so profound, so wonderful to witness. I just want to say that you're one of the examples, of Kundalini. It's active, it's available, it's alive, it's playing through you, it's expressing herself through you. And I remember when we first met, you were very uncertain and unsure about this energy that was quite overwhelming, I remember, for you, and you weren't quite sure about how to manage the intensity of what this energy is. So yeah, that's how we met. So what I have been doing is it's progressed. My bodywork sessions have progressed from I started life as a physiotherapist, so I was healing, supposedly. Well, yeah, healing physicality, physical pain, but I knew that in many cases there was some kind of emotional, energetic, or some kind of psychological component to their pain, especially when things weren't resolving. And yeah, you could I just wanted to coach them. I wanted to support them outside of the clinic. And then I went on this crazy adventure in 2020 to Guatemala, and I was in a sort of shamanic container that was the whole world went into lockdown. So we stayed in this container for a while. We were exchanging skills, and my skill to exchange was massage, and people were having emotional releases and crying and laughing and expressing within these sessions. And I just thought, like, how is this different? This is normal massage, but in this shamanic container, we're setting it up with intention and permission to go there, go deep into like our emotions and express. And the results were profoundly different. So I retrained as an emotional detox body worker, which was a culmination of this guy's like 20-25 years as a body worker, lots of tantric massage, chi night sang and Taoist massage, some Thai techniques as well. So I was doing this, and this was really potent for people to release those emotions. So it was what I was doing before, but amplified massively. And then through that, I was seeing that people's bodies were moving in the expression that Kundalini likes to move. This wonderful, exotic, like snake-like pattern of the spine moving, or random like shaking and things like that. And so it was really energetic and intriguing. So since then, that was like 2 or 3 years ago, and since then I've wanted to explore more what the Kundalini aspect is, the energetics, the subtle energy. And it's still so mysterious, it's still very mysterious. And I've done some retraining in Kundalini bodywork specifically to be more familiar with Kundalini, what it does, how to express it, how to heighten the experience safely as well, because it can be pretty intense, as you know. So yeah.
For somebody who never heard of Kundalini energy, how would you explain what Kundalini is for someone that has never heard of these concepts and might be watching this?
Such a good question. So we have life force energy that propels it moves our body anyway. You call it chi, you call it prana, and without that we wouldn't be able to live. And we can do energetic practices that can increase our vitality, our life force energy, etc. And that's beautiful stuff, like yoga, Kundalini yoga, qigong. Any exercise increases the amount of breath work, increases the amount of chi and prana in your body, but Kundalini is just something a little bit extra. So Kundalini, from what I understand, is a usually dormant energy sitting at the base of our spine, and it is associated with Shakti energy, or creation, or sexuality, or feminine sort of aspects. And so we can do activities to awaken this energy so that she starts to express herself through our body. The idea is to unite with consciousness and sort of cosmic energy, I suppose, or cosmic or divine energy. Like the tantric sort of text would say Shiva is like consciousness, presence, awareness. So when we can bring down consciousness into meet Kundalini and facilitate this unification, this Kundalini energy travels up the spine to the third eye and the crown, and a full Kundalini awakening is the next stage of human evolution. Basically, it's where we're going. It will burn away all illusion of ego, of patterns, and it's a very intense experience that some people are having these experiences spontaneously, and that's a lot of what the warnings are about. Like, people get a little bit scared about, don't play with Kundalini, it can be really dangerous. But it's only when people haven't had enough preparation to clear their body from trauma, because the body holds the memories of the trauma from our lifetimes and previous lifetimes, and all the life lessons that we're here to learn. And so if a Kundalini awakening happens fully and spontaneously, it can be really disorientating. Yeah. However, we can activate the Kundalini and start to work with it to help facilitate and clean the body and clean the nervous system of the old traumas, to prepare for this like full-on Kundalini rising that is a sustained spiritual awakening. But it can come on in various different degrees of intensity, as you know, but it is a person.
Sorry, I remember, I think I had a first Kundalini experience while I was sharing intimacy with a man. It wasn't anything to do with any ritual or any treatment. It was just like, whoa, what's this? This is, and I remember my neck, just my chin went that like back a lot, and just I was like, whoa, this was all this energy. Like, I couldn't, because I didn't understand it. I was scared of it. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share very briefly how I got to find your work, because you do a Kundalini activation, and you do yoni massage as well. And I think for some people, like, it's a very radical thing to do, a yoni massage, and I wanted to very briefly explain how I got to take the decision of trying this amazing treatment. And basically, I was like going to therapy with a therapist that does EFT, emotional freedom technique, and she was getting me to basically identify where all the trauma and emotions and sensations in my body were happening. So I would say things like, I feel sadness in my chest. I would give it a color, and so I really got familiarized with the idea that emotions live in the body, in a specific place in the body. So that's how it all started for me. And as I was building more and more rapport with this person, with this therapist, I started to say things like, I feel anger in my womb, I feel rage in my genitals, and I remember I was like, oh my God, what am I saying? Like, never heard anybody talking this way, and I'm talking like this. Like, how can rage live in the genitals? Like, I was a bit like, whoa, this is new for me, but I'm just gonna go with it. And then I started to do some research about about these emotions and energy blockages in the body, and I started reading about Tantra and about de-armoring the body so that the energy can flow freely. I'm very passionate about this, like how we can store trauma and just store feelings. Not necessarily. What blew my mind was like it doesn't have. I thought unless you are sexually abused, you shouldn't have anything in your genitals, any blockages. But it's not like that. You can store even joy. You can store so much in your genitals, like a reflexology of the genitals. And when I started saying to my friends, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get a yoni massage," they were like, their faces, it was just so funny. Like, were you doing what? So I think I really wanted to bring this subject, like because it's amazing. I find it a fascinating subject, and I wanted to ask you, why would you encourage women to get such a type of body work, yoni massage? Because I know it can be a bit different from what other things that people get done. They get other type of therapies, but not this type is very unique. Why would you encourage them to get this work?
Well, you've touched on the reasons why already. It's beautifully as well. I really enjoy your journey of explaining why it's been important for you and why this has been a development of an interest for you, because yes, emotions are stored in the body. It's me coming from a medical background, physiotherapy. The brain lives here. This is where our psychology is, and the body has a function. We've been taught like separation, basically, typical separation, but it's all one continuous process. I've heard it in a book and philosophies, that the body is an extension of the subconscious, and there is and as a physiotherapist, I'd be like, you're bonkers. Like, how can your foot hold the memory? Like, how can you put pressure on your foot and it affect the liver and that affect an emotion? That doesn't make any sense. But I'm really interested in Chinese qigong, medical qigong, and the anatomy of, like, the energetic anatomy of the body, and it is all connected. There's each and every cell stores the memory of everything. So and it took a while to witness, but people release really strong emotions from the body. It could be ribs, it could be face, it could be the shin. I've seen some really wild, very intense expressions, um, and it basically stems from when we are babies and children. We're open and joyful, and we want to move in flow of life. But then we get sort of restrictions. It's not necessarily like abuse, like physical abuse or sexual abuse, but every time we're told to stop doing something that's in our flow, we tend to sort of like stop what we do, and we stop the flow of energy through our bodies. So there's contraction in our bodies, and then that's a memory. That's a physical memory from that time memory. And so they're like a combination. It accrues. I don't know what the word is. It builds up. So through school, if you've been bullied, it closes your heart down. You feel sorrow, like the expression of unconditional love is closed off. It's our relationship to our parents and things like that. There's all these ways and occurrences that limit our true nature flowing through us, and so it's held in the body, as how we move, how we talk, how we express. So these bodywork sessions are a journey into the body, into the tissues, into the cells, to release those energetic patterns, those pains. It's kind of like a unresolved story, like an unresolved, like let's say if somebody was bullied and they weren't able to really fully express their anger or their sadness, that anger or sadness is trapped in the body. But you know, if they were given you know, the option of expressing rage or sadness to their bully, then it wouldn't have stayed within the confinement of their body. So when we're doing this massage, that contained energy is released. So it might be sadness, crying, might be rage. You know, I've heard some people shout the loudest that they have ever shouted before in their lives because it's uncontrollable. It's just like energy needing to be released. So intense. So this allows freedom. It allows this life force energy, their authentic expression of who they truly are, those channels of energy that were blocked before from those times. The energy is then able to fully come through. And that's beautiful in its own right. And that's really effective. And we don't even have to go anywhere near the genital area. It can be really fully effective. But also, the genitals never get massaged in this unconditional way. You know, you can go for a sports massage and no one ever goes anywhere near that. And rightly so, because it's a very sort of tentative and sacred space, and we need to do it in the correct way. But yeah, we've had generations and generations of physical and sexual abuse to women, and that happens in the tissues of the genitals. So the tissues of the genitals need to have that tender care, that skillful release of the tissue around the genitals, and those, you know, stored traumas get released from the genitals too. And not just from this lifetime, it gets released from previous lifetimes as well. I once had a client who she could specifically nail down that it was grief that we were releasing from her yoni, but not from her lifetime. It was grief from her grandmother's stillborn birth. She knew specifically, she didn't know that her grandmother had a stillborn birth. And it was clear to her that that was the energy that she was releasing. So yeah, amazing.
Imagine. Yeah, I even heard recently that some physiotherapists, they wouldn't touch certain muscles because it makes people cry and they don't want people to cry. You know, like there is this one that goes from the pelvis to the back, and you know,
that's right. Yeah,
I don't remember the name, but yeah, and they wouldn't touch it because they don't want anybody crying.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, you're right, and that sort of brings me to say that it's not just a physical thing. You know, obviously these physical therapists, these physiotherapists, are not trained to hold the emotions of the other person. So, it's what I do is more than just the physical thing and the knowledge and experience of the release, but also like the content, like the energy that I hold the space is like really permissive, and yeah, I think that when people can go really deep, it's because of the presence of the therapist that is there to witness.
So that's something I wanted to ask you as well, because I think when I started, when I actually decided to go for it, I felt very aligned decision, but there were some fears. But I also been through a process of, I lost a lot of fear about expressing myself through my body, through somatic dance classes I was doing for about 2 years before I met you, 1 year possibly. So I feel like I wanted to ask you, like, what happens when women are actually struggling to really surrender and let go, even though you hold the space so well, you hold the space so beautifully, and I personally felt super safe to just express through my body whatever needed to be expressed, all stories, traumas, crying, shouting, laughing. But I wanted to ask you, like, how do you handle those situations when you can notice that a woman is really struggling to fully surrender and let go and express the stories and to release?
Within a session, do you mean?
Exactly. You feel like all this resistance.
Yeah, there's often little clues that they give me of where that is stuck, and often it's the main clue is through their breathing style. So when people don't want to go there, their breathing goes a little bit shallow. Maybe they want to start to cry to release this, but they close their mouths and, you know, it just gets stuck. So I just encourage them to breathe deeper and open their mouth and maybe ask, what does, if this sensation or feeling had a sound, what would it sound like? And encourage them to sound, because this will, like, opening the mouth to start to release, the body can let go. You know, it's the breath is so symbolic. If they're not letting go, if they're not feeling it, if they're not letting go, they're not fully exhaling. They're holding their breath and just going.
Yeah.
If I encourage them to just fully let go and make a sound, the body will start to move and shake and do. It's just all in the breath. You know, maybe they'll only let half of the breath go. So, you know, encourage them to go fully, let it go all the way, breathe all the way out, breathe all the way out. And then also, you know, they may want to not actually go back to the body. So their breath might be shallow. So encouraging them to take a deep, deep breath into their lower belly. And the breath is really the key. It's really important for clients to practice slow, long and deep breaths before they come to me, so that they can really journey into the body. Yeah, other ways is that, you know, sometimes their body might be giving some kind of signal or, you know, movement, and I might just have to facilitate that with either a release technique with you know, with my hands, like a massage technique, or some tapping, or like I'm starting to facilitate movement of the body, maybe sort of arching their back and helping them stretch to release by holding different postures. So yeah, it's just really going with what feels right at the time, you know. So yeah, those are some options.
Yeah. And so can I also ask you if you're if you don't mind sharing, like, is there any challenge you faced during all this time you've been doing this work, like
Yeah,
sharing?
there's been so many really intense sessions, but there was one time about a year ago, bless her, she was in a very violent relationship for upwards of 10 years, and so her body had contained all this, like, you know, she wasn't able to express any of this abuse or release any of this, like, pain, sorrow, anguish, whatever it was. And so the session was for either 3 or 4 hours, but the whole 3 or 4 hours it was screaming at the top of her lungs, like to the point where my ears were ringing. So I was, and her Kundalini had been activated as well through plant medicine ceremony, and she was really suppressing it. So it was, and whenever it was allowed to express, it came out as high volume, very intense, loud screaming. So my process was to give her space to do that, give her permission to do that, encourage her to do that, because this is clearing out this dense stored energy from her energy field, and then practicing soothing her, you know, to come back to the breath, to regulate the nervous system. So it was kind of training, or giving her ways to self-soothe. So it's like a pressure cooker, or like a bottle of Coke that's fizzy, you know, like opening the Coke, letting loads of fizz out, and then closing it up again, opening it. Because if you did too much, it would just fizz everywhere. It would just be like a mess, wouldn't it? So that practice was, I like that analogy, where it was just letting some out and then soothing her and staying calm myself and staying present. But yeah, my heart was pretty heavy with the amount of pain she was holding on to.
Oh, bless her. Okay, thank you for sharing. It must be also yeah, you need to be this type of person and have this type of presence to be able to hold so much. Like it's like you're always going to the unknown, you know. Obviously, I guess with experience you are less and less scared of it, but it's like each person, each human being is like full of energy and stories, and it's like you open this box and you don't know what you're gonna find. So wow, I really admire your work and what you do, and is amazing. Yeah, do you want to share as well, like how do you feel when uh, yeah, I'd love to know what feelings do you experience when doing this offering, like when it's not super challenging, but in general, like how do you feel like walking this path, and when you are with the clients, and do you yeah, what feelings do you experience?
What a lovely question. Hmm. So it's quite mixed actually, because I'm drawn to say two things. There's I fundamentally approach this as like really, really sacred work. And so I bring a lot of intention and care and love into the space. So that's the energy that I purposely bring into the space. Um, because yeah, that's like a foundation. That's like, it feels like that's the nest, I suppose, is really kind and loving and supporting. Then when it's such a journey, I really appreciate what you said before, because everybody's completely unique and their expression is completely unique. And so um sometimes there are thoughts and opinions about, like, is is she is she still with me? Is she like, is this doing anything? Or does that expression mean anything? Like, because there's heavy emotions, but then there's also arousal that happens as well. So when anything like that comes up as a thought, um I've had many years of meditation and mindfulness, so my practice is really not to like focus on any of those thoughts, but just let them sort of fall away, so that I just stay present. So yeah, if there's any sort of stirrings of my own personal feelings throughout the session, I just observe them and then just go back to her. So there are like I try to have my own like um emotions to a minimum. It doesn't say, it's not cold in any shape or form, but just like, let's come back to love, let's come back to an unconditional presence, and those types of things. um but yeah, ultimately I feel really blessed to be in this position to support women in this way, because it's it's just such a beautiful process to witness every time. So yeah, there's a bit of gratitude and humility there as well thrown in.
And you are also very devoted to what you do and the divine feminine as well. So I wanted to ask you as well, like how would you explain with your own words, like what divine feminine is and its different forms of expression? Uh, how do you feel it, this energy? And after all the work you've done with all these women, how would you describe and what, yeah, divine feminine?
Divine feminine energy. So I want to say that I think that balance is really important for each individual, like unity, wholeness, and for a female presenting body to try to embody total divine femininity, that is wonderful, and it's only half the story as well. So I encourage an integration of the whole, in my body. I have a relationship to my divine feminine expression, and I encourage a divine masculine presence as well. So and I think that the divine feminine is ultimately creation. It's the mother, it's the lover, it's all these like amazing feminine archetypes that, you know, give them space, give them room to be fully creative, fully chaotic, fully wild, fully loving, fully nurturing. Those like typical feminine qualities, just unadulterated, and deep and emotional and wild. But for that expression to feel safe to be unapologetically expressive, there is an aspect that, you know, polarity, the safety, the presence, the witness of the masculine gets to be there to support that feminine to be in her fullest expression, whether that's with, you know, a romantic partner or a therapist like me, or within your own person. You know, your divine feminine aspect will grow and enhance with as much divine masculine balance that you can create within your own system, within your own psyche as well. So I think it was important to speak a little bit about balance and polarity and unification, and that kind of dance between the two. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. Like, well, I haven't been doing this work for a long time, you know, exploring my feminine energy. I'm not gonna lie, but something I really, really understood is that in order to allow your feminine energy to be expressed, you need to have a strong masculine, because otherwise it's just it's just chaos, you know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, well, it's uncontrolled chaos, because you can have chaos, but controlled, you know. And then yeah, to be able to allow all this expression, all these tears, all this I need to have a strong masculine, because I wouldn't be able, it would be overwhelming, it would be too much, I wouldn't be able to function in life. I totally agree about balance. So this is also interesting. I really love this subject. I really wanted to do this interview because I think it's beautiful wisdom that this world needs. And and yeah, I feel like a lot of people know this knowledge already. They are not aware of it. But I'm sure a lot of women had when they were making love with their partners, if they felt safe to do so, I'm sure a lot of women cry during sexual intercourse. You know what I mean? Because it happened to me, and it's like, why am I crying? You know, and it's like, so for me it's so interesting, because I feel like people know this. People know that this type of work is important, and that we store a lot of trauma in our bodies, in specific points in our bodies. But it's so, I think it's still quite new. You know, it's still like a new concept. Like, obviously, the doctor is not going to tell you, oh yeah, you need to check. You probably have some rage in your vagina, and you know, let's sort it out. Like, no, it's like you have a symptom, and use some medicines. So the last question I wanted to ask is, so a lot of people who have had their Kundalini awaken, they claim to struggle to be able to control it. So I know this happened to some people, and I think it's helpful to bring the subject in case anybody who is watching this might relate. So often when the Kundalini energy is awakened or activated, it often happens that maybe you are listening to music, or you are sharing intimacy with your partner, and you feel like this urge to shake, like uncontrollably. And I guess it's because the Kundalini wants to flow freely, and it can't, maybe because there are blockages and you feel like shaking. This is like my own, how I understand it. I don't know if you can clarify it. So is there any reassuring advice you could give to these people when they feel like they can't control it, and they might be like, oh, what's this? Am I going to be shaking all my life? Where have I made a mistake by getting my Kundalini awakened or activated? Or how can they handle these situations? Can you explain why it's happening? Yeah, anything that you think it might be useful.
Yeah, beautiful question, because yeah, it's overwhelming. It's very overwhelming, and if there's not much information out there, and it's quite worrying. You know, there's a history of people being put away in mental institutes, saying, "Oh, you've been possessed by the devil." So there's like cultural sort of like conditioning to say this is madness or whatever. So first thing is that it's completely normal and it's a blessing. So if you have this like feeling of gratitude in your heart that you know that this is Kundalini, this is here to help you. This Kundalini is an intelligent force that is here for your evolution. And so yeah, if you connect with that relationship to the energy of gratitude rather than fear, that's going to be a good starting point for you. Because yeah, once it's been activated in this intense way, when it's fully awakened, in, well, careful of the terminology, but yeah, activated and present, it's really helpful for you to build up a good relationship with it rather than fighting it and oppressing it, because it can you know, a bit like a pressure cooker, you know, it can just come out what's the word, like at times when you're not expecting it or you can't really control it. So work with it, basically work with it, be appreciative of it. There are many ways to ground and to prepare for intense experiences. So if you just let it like flow through you and stuff like that, that's great. You know, it will teach you as well. You know, work with it and it will teach you how to. You know, there's a lot of people that just learn as they go along because they befriend it, and you know, the Kundalini energy will teach them about like regulated breathing and how to calm the nervous system and things like that. But if there's ways to regulate your breath, there's ways to ground, you know, being like, if you can't manage it, if like an immediate sort of problem arises, then get out into nature, earth your feet, lie down fully on your back and cover yourself with you know, on the earth, or hug a tree. You know, these beings like the earth, the trees, you know, they have this like really grounding and calming energy. So those are immediate sort of like resolutions if it's becoming really intense. And just slow your breathing down, you know, concentrate on a full in breath and a full exhale. You know, if your heart rate's, you know, pounding, blow out of pursed lips. That immediately slows your heart rate. But really get involved with a daily practice to regulate your nervous system, to connect with your body, connect with the energy, so that you've befriended this energy. And yeah, I'm open to work with people. You know, if we're not immediately in the vicinity, because I spend a lot of time in Mexico, I do online mentorship and support, and yeah, I can just teach you how to yeah, be in partnership with this energy so that it can really benefit your life. Yeah,
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's everything I had to ask. I'm sure
wonderful.
I've got a lot of questions about this subject, but I think it's good to leave some, you know, mystery.
Yeah,
This is like a mysterious energy, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Well, I really appreciate this conversation. The way that it's flowed, the way that we've you know, because of the connection that we've had already, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. I really couldn't be happier about the decision of having worked with you, because it is very empowering. It's not something we are saying much. These words, we are not saying it very much, but it is an empowering practice, because you connect more and more with your own power and your authentic self, and the more you can free your body from all these stories and blockages, the more connected you are to who you are. And that's all what I'm about.
So beautifully put.
Pardon?
So beautifully put. I really appreciate what you just said. It's so empowering, as you were saying, yeah, to connect with your authentic truth and get rid of all the illusions of, like, what's contained within the body, the old patterns, beliefs, behaviors, and just connecting more and more with truth, your individual expression of truth, and how it's coming through in your life. Yeah, so
I'm sure I wouldn't have taken I wouldn't have making all these decisions I made this year if it wasn't because I worked at this work. Like, there are some decisions that in the past I would have said, oh, I'm not sure, and not, since I had this work, I'm very sure that it was a crucial piece, in where I'm at now. If I connect all the dots of the things I've done, I think I know is so powerful, and it connects you with your sacred yes, with your sacred no. You're just more empowered. So I encourage every woman to contact you. So do you want to say briefly, do you usually work in Mexico or in Manchester or both? Just briefly before we go.
Yeah, sure. So I am residing in Mexico mainly at the moment, and occasionally, about 2 or 3 times a year, I'm coming back to Manchester and staying for a few months. Yeah, so I'm around this Christmas and New Year, and then I'll be back in the summer for a couple of months. And so I'm juggling 2 lives basically. So yeah, and like I say, I'm available online as well for support. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, we will make sure we leave some links so people can contact you.
Yes, wonderful.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria. Yeah, see you later.
See ya. Thank you.